Well, hello everyone. Welcome to Renovation Sportfish. This is part 2 of installing the port settee. The wall here, I'm actually done with this wall. It's in. Up here, I jammed some shims up in here and then epoxied it in with some 6O Flex dark. It's like a dark brown color. Probably would have been nice to have that dark brown over here, but anyway, so that's how I mended that. I didn't even screw it in from the back side. I might do that when I do the head inside, but I didn't do it for now. And then over here on this side, there was a pretty big gap between this beam and this piece over here. They just had it shimmed in there with some, they used them in other areas, just pieces of laminate, countertop laminate stacked up. But I took a piece of mahogany I had that was just the right size basically and got it up in there. Epoxied that in there first, and then today I just came back and put a screw in here. They had a screw in there. I just put one in there. So that's not going anywhere. So the top is locked in now, the bottom's locked in, and that wall is basically in, which is good. Something I can knock off my to-do list. As you can see, the settee is all tabbed into the hole there. So that's finished. And what I'm going to do today is get this kind of frame piece here installed. And it's just fitting in there right now. I already got it fitting and screwed in. And then I'm going to make a cleat to go along this wall and one to go along this cabinet. And then I'm also going to make some smaller cleats that are just going to go from here along this piece of plywood over to the hull, so I can attach a piece of plywood in the future and tab that into the hull. So that's what I'm up to. As you can see, I also have the drawers sitting in there just to get a visual. Everything works and functions like it should. And these drawers, you have to lift them up to pull them out. And if anybody watches Acorn Arabella, they did something like that on theirs. And I'll pull one of these out of here so you can see how Egg Harbor did it back in '73. They put these little stops on here. So, there's a little fabric on that one, but they put these little triangular kind of stops on here, and that's what they catch on. And then they also put this little brass, get it up here, this little brass piece here. That'll keep the drawer from falling out all the way. So, that's it. Now we're going to get into the work. And I'll just skip over where I installed these two side cleats with epoxy. I also installed some cleats on the tops of the plywood near the hull. And I fabricated an epoxied in mahogany filler piece on each side between the support and the cleat just to tie everything together. Trying to get a little batten going here because I measured out in some spots here along where the hull is. Get the hull shape, and I marked them on here. I don't know if you can see them, but there's little marks here. So I put these pieces up against them there, and so now this isn't perfect. It's not perfection, but it should work. So I'm just going to trace a line. I guess I should explain how I got those offsets. So I put this straight edge in, and it kind of goes in the corner here and on that side. And then at each one of these plywood stations, I measured the distance between the hull and that straight edge. And that's what I plotted onto that piece of plywood. And I've also captured the angle of the hull in relationship to the top of this platform here. Alright, well, believe it or not, this is how it dropped in. And I can't believe it. It's a pretty good gap over here. It's actually getting caught up a little bit on the tabbing right here. So I'm going to notch that a little. It's a little tight on this side too. I'll just mark that up. Kind of like, you know, where there's space here. I'll just nip that off right there, like that. Alright, so here we are after I cut the pieces. I had a little bit of a squiggly right there. It was just because I was using this supposed straight edge that caught the saw funny, my jigsaw. And I'll never use that again. I did a better job just following the line. But there we go. So now I'm going to bring these home and epoxy them, both sides and the edges. And then I'll bring them back tomorrow after I sand them and permanently install the one in the back. And this one here, I'll probably just put a few screws here and there in it because it's going to be kind of semi-permanent. Okay, so what you're looking at here is the original piece of trim that goes on the front face of the port settee up near the top. Now, after a lot of debate in my own mind, I decided to actually use it. Because when I fit it over there, it was about a 1/16 of an inch short. And I think it was that way. It might have been even worse when the factory had it in, just because of the spacing of things. But I decided I could live with that because it is a nice piece of wood, as you can see, once it's going to be varnished and everything. And it also has this nice kind of relief on the back of it here. And you'll see more about this when I bring it over there and I fit it in and stuff, and why they did that. But I would have to put that in the new piece too. And there's nothing wrong with this piece. It's just slightly short, but I think it's going to be okay because this side here goes up against the cabinets, and they left this just flat here, didn't do anything. So I'm going to just push that side up against the cabinet, and then on this side, there's this radius here. I wouldn't have done that, but they put this radius in, and it's kind of chewed up here because they had a door stop in there. Somebody put a door stop in there, just kind of nailed it in there. So it's kind of messed up a little bit on this side anyways. So this is where the head wall is. So this is where there'll be a slight gap. Well, as you can see here, I filled in. This was the area that had like a hole in it, and it had some chunks taken out of it. So what I did was I mixed some epoxy with the sanding dust from sanding this whole thing down. As you notice, it's sanded down now. And I just mixed it together and kind of filled in that hole right there. So I'm gonna fit this in today, actually install it today. So I want to just sand this down quickly and see how it came out. And hopefully it looks good. If not, it's going in anyways. Definitely filled the hole in, but it's still a question mark as to how it's gonna varnish up. So one of the things I want to do before I install this is just clean up these original screw holes with my number 8 countersink bit. I think they're a little bit not deep enough. I just want to go a little bit slightly deeper. Some of them are okay, but just want to clean them up a little. They're not going to be perfect when I put the plugs in because some of them have a little minor chips around them, but it should be fine for what I'm doing, and they should come out okay. So I installed this piece yesterday. This is just a little piece of the same 1/2-inch plywood that goes over the whole surface, and it's just there because the piece of trim kind of sits on it. Excuse me. And so yeah, I epoxied that on yesterday in place, and it's all dry today, so now we can install that piece of trim. We'll fit it first and then we'll install it. So once I get this epoxy on here, I moved the camera to position it so I can show myself installing this, and I forgot to turn the camera on. So a bit of technical difficulty, and you won't see me installing this piece. Okay, well, we have finished off this piece of trim that I was putting in last time I filmed. And I don't remember if I filmed plugging the screws, but I plugged the screw holes, and I've since chiseled them and sanded them down. So that piece is totally completed. So today I brought back the piece I call a semi-permanent piece that goes in here. It's kind of triangle shaped, and I'm going to put that in for the last time. And before I put that in, I just wanted to show you that I had to add some shims on the top of these pieces of plywood, these dividers here, because the tops of them were just cut kind of randomly, and I was finding that the 1/2-inch plywood doesn't really span this well, and it was kind of flexing. So I wanted to just put something on there to kind of give it a little support on each one. So I just cut some little mahogany shims and epoxied them on there, and then sanded them down when they were dry. And of course, they're all different heights, so they were all uniquely done, which is par for the course here. So there's that one. So anyways, I'm going to put that piece in. I did fabricate the four removable pieces that I'm going to have in the front here, because I'm going to put some little storage areas here above the drawers. So now I got this piece in, and I'll zoom in on one of these shims here so you can see. So it's just cut flush with this face of the plywood, so just gives it that extra support there all along the whole thing, which is good. Okay, so in the interest of keeping this video not too long, I'm not going to show how I made these panels, but they're basically just rectangles with a hole cut in them for lifting them out of there. So that's about it. I'll lift one out so you can just see how it works. Just lifts out of there like that. And eventually, like I said before, there'll be some storage bins here. Well, I'm not going to get into any of that until probably after the boat's in the water and I have nothing else to do. But that's those pieces. And other things to note, kind of ran out of time. It got too cold. I couldn't tab the back piece into the hull. I'll have to wait till spring to do that. And the other thing I'm going to have to wait till spring to do is varnish all this wood in the front here. And I'm going to have to put a piece of trim on that corner too. But it's done for now, so 3 months from now we'll get back on it when it warms up. Alright, well that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed that. Now it is that time of year, so I'm going to wish everyone a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays if you celebrate something else. Happy New Year to everyone. Try it out. Needs a cushion.